You're listening to the Hope Not Nope podcast
with Doc Dillon
and Brandi.
We empower high performers with a three-part strategy of hope,
self-agency, goals, and proven frameworks,
so that you can reach your potential
and the highest quality of life. How's it going? Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Hope Not Nope podcast. Harley says, yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Harley. I'm sure you get that a lot. Couldn't resist.
Doc Dillon, I know you've been working in sports rehab for over 10 years. I'm looking to follow a similar career path. What's the biggest thing that has surprised you in the field?
Harley, thank you for the question. A lot of surprises. I think one surprise, and this isn't the biggest surprise, but leading up to the biggest surprise, one surprise is just how your career path can go. In the sense of you can think it's going to look one way, but then it looks a completely different way for the better. I never thought I'd be able to do this with my spouse and do this with my spouse who is not a PT, which is awesome because whenever we meet new people, there's kind of this assumption that we both have our doctorates in physical therapy and that's what we both do. And that's like our commonality, the common ground that brought us together, but it's not. Mm-hmm. And it came with different perspectives and experiences that have both helped each other grow in so many different ways. But I think the biggest surprise that I've learned in my career to this point is that when you take the time to listen to what your patient or client is saying, you learn so much about the words that are being used and the common sayings that people use without understanding or knowing why they're using them or saying them, but it gives you a hint as to what's going on inside their body. And the one that stood out to me the most so far is what we call the great disconnect of when an injury happens, of how the mind starts to change how it rationalizes truth. And one of the truths is that we are a bunch of parts that make up the whole, both in the grand scheme of things, but then also the human body itself. There's a bunch of parts that come together in order to do a common thing that it's being told to do by the nervous system. So what ends up happening is that when people have an injury and you ask them, how are you? They commonly will say, I'm good. And then you go, how's your shoulder? And they go, oh, yeah, not so good. It's bothering me. I can't do this, and that. And when you just go through the motion, you kind of miss what that is telling you because you're like, oh yeah, that's common. Like that's how people communicate. I'm good, but yeah, my injured part's not good. Well, let's take a step back. If we're parts that make the whole, how can all of you be good if part of you is not doing good?
Right. Yeah.
And it took me a little bit in my career to start realizing that because it was just the flow of conversation. Hi, I'm Dillon. I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I'll be working with you today. Come on back. Hey, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm doing good. Okay, cool. How's that injured part doing? Not so good.
Yeah.
Like, well, wait a minute. Your brain has disassociated or disconnected this injured area from being part of you that makes the whole. And so before we get into any exercises like therapeutic exercise or neuromuscular rehab, like we got to lean into this and figure out why is this dissociation happening right off the bat? Because there's a thing in the brain called the sensory homunculus, and there's a thing called sensory mapping, in which the brain relies on feedback from the sensory receptors in the system that give it information to let it know that the movement was successful, to give feedback of touch, pressures, to let it know that, hey, this is where this thing is in space and it's part of us. And it allows it to have more of an accurate signaling system to allow more movement to happen efficiently, but also get the feedback back to fine tune it. When there's a dissociation, that sensory map starts to smudge. And what that means is that it just makes it harder for the system to communicate with each other, which makes movement more hard. Hesitations come up and doubts come up. And so the biggest thing that I've learned is when we listen, we start to understand this almost immediate disconnect that happens when an injury occurs. And step one is that we have to listen. Step two is we have to ponder, hey, why do we say these things? I know on the podcast before, another one we've used is I'm hanging in there.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, good, 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 you're hanging there. But when we stop and we go, what does hanging in there actually mean?
Yeah.
Like there is two outcomes of that. You either fall or someone comes and pulls you out of that hang. Like those are the two options in that. That is not a good place to be. So yeah, step one, we have to listen to the words that are being said and not just the words that you need for your documentation. Because
Yeah.
so many times I see students, they come in, they have this checklist of stuff that they have to get. And not just students, people that have been practicing for years and have kind of fallen, I'll say, quote unquote, victim to the system of, hey, I need to hit these check boxes to make sure that the insurance companies are happy.
Hmm.
And in doing that, they forget to talk and to listen to the human that's telling them all the stuff that you actually need to know. And then you'll get the stuff you need for your note. Like, don't worry about that. Worry about that person that's right in front of you.
Yeah.
But when you sit down and you listen to the words they're saying, you ponder, what does this actually mean? What is this telling me about how they're viewing the injury? That's going to set your rehab program apart from, okay, let's do 3 sets of 10 of a quad set. Okay, let's do some scraping.
Hmm.
Okay, let's do this, let's do that. I'm like, no, why are you disconnected from that body area?
Yeah.
Movement can help with that, but also let's get in some mental reps. So let's work on your mindset to help bring that back into frame where that sensory map isn't getting smudged.
As somebody who went to 10-ish different doctors when I had my foot injury and had complex regional pain syndrome, the reality is like until my last doctor that I went to, no one really listened to
Hmm.
that because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like having complex regional pain syndrome is literally your brain starting to reject that area of your body because it's viewing it as bad
Yeah.
is kind of like the simplest way to phrase it. And my sensory mapping got so smudged up, but I would say like, oh, I'm doing all right. My foot is terrible. I hate my foot. It's so stupid. Like I literally I talked so negatively about my foot injury, so much so that like the sensory mapping started creating symptoms in my other foot as well.
Right.
And I look back and I'm like, well, that's kind of part of complex regional pain syndrome and the path in which that can happen. But if I didn't have a doctor actually listen to how I was speaking about myself and about my foot and the reality of like the more I was speaking that way, the more my brain and really like I was rejecting that part of my body. Like that is not that's not like healthy.
No.
And so like from the lived experience like patient client side, I can really speak to I know what it's like to be tempted into speaking that way.
Hmm.
And not just tempted, but speaking that way about yourself is so automatic. But if you don't, for Harley, who is going into this field as more of a provider than necessarily than like the lived experience side of thing, like really, like listening is what helped me the most because I had a lot of doctors just be like, "Oh wow, complex regional pain syndrome. You're going to be a case study."
Yeah.
Like it was like this fascinating thing, like, "Ooh, you're going to be a case study," versus like, hey, you're 16 years old and this is scary. Let me help you and let me hear how you're speaking. I'm thankful that I had complex regional pain syndrome because the reality is like I would have never met you and this would
Hmm.
not be my life had I not had it. But at the same time, being 16 and having a diagnosis of you're going to be in pain the rest of your life, like that's pretty traumatic.
Yeah, yeah. And Harley and I don't want to sound reductionist and like dumbing down the science,
Hmm.
but I just want to put it simply. And if your body doesn't expect that something is a part of it, if it perceives it as an invader, what is it going to do? It's going to attack.
Mm,
Virus comes into the system. You throw up, you have diarrhea. Why does that happen? Evacuation. We have an invader, we're being attacked, clear it out.
yeah.
Doesn't matter when or where, just get it out of the system, right? And then when we look at body parts in that same way, when we start to have that dissociation, and this is why it's so key for us to catch that talk early of, hey, if your knee's not doing well, it's okay for you to say like, yeah, I'm not overall doing well because the discomfort I have in my knees kind of put me down.
Hmm.
Like, hey, that's honest, that's vulnerable, that's courageous, that's awesome. We can work with that. When you say like, Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm doing great. Ah, this knee's killing me though. To me, that's, oh gosh, like this is the first signal
Hmm.
that this is going to happen. And we have to intervene to stop it from happening. But if that continues to happen where you start to get more and more of this self-talk rejection of that area, you're giving evidence to the brain that that prediction is accurate. And when the prediction is accurate, then the brain says, "Ooh, good. Let's remember that pathway. Let's use that pathway over and over again because that was good." And there's a reward in that, and the evidence said that this is it, so this has to be the prediction. Then ultimately what happens is the brain starts going, "Hey, this foot or hand or shoulder or whatever body part you want to add in there, this isn't part of us."
Hmm.
So when I'm getting feedback from this area that's not part of us, it's an invader. So what do we have to do? We have to attack it. And what's that first step of attacking? Inflammation.
Hmm.
And don't get me wrong, inflammation, that first stage is needed to start the healing process, but it has to get to the second stage for healing to actually occur. Because stage one is attack, stage two is cleanup. And
Hmm.
if we just keep attacking without the cleanup, you're not going to get there. And I'll share one quick story because I think it will help to kind of put this together of one, this being like the biggest surprise, but also to me, the like one of the coolest things that we get to do
Hmm.
at Hope Not Nope and Harley, something that you'll be able to do is surprisingly not a lot of athletes get this treatment
Yeah.
or awareness of it. It's, well, you have to get stronger. Well, you got to eat better. And some of that may be true. Like,
Hmm.
not saying that that's not true, but what is that internal load and what is the perception that you're carrying with this injury? And has anyone ever actually sat down, and listened to you through it and given you those mental reps to coexist with the physical reps? Because I don't think we can separate those two, like both help each other, but you need both in order to have a successful sports rehab. But I remember working with this one person and um, great runner, like phenomenal runner. They had an injury. I won't discuss the body part, and they were basically on a track to start having these first signs of complex regional pain syndrome developing. And as Brandi said, if you have complex regional pain syndrome, usually the treatment is, "Ooh, you're going to be a case study
Yeah.
because this is so confusing
And so
and
rare.
so
Yeah.
rare." Or the second statement is, "Well, you're pretty much doomed.
Yeah.
Get used to having this the rest of your life."
It's both statements.
Or it's both statements. This is your new label. This is your new identity. This is what you do. You just got to manage life with this incredible pain, discoloration, swelling, anything that you thought about doing athletically, throw it away.
See ya.
That is not your life anymore. Like
Yeah.
you're doomed. You can't do this. And this individual is starting to kind of get into that pathway. And I got to work with him and I just asked him, "So I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think about that injured area. And what do you envision when you see that area?" And he told me what he envisioned, and his body had rejected it because when the injury first happened, he got rejected by the healthcare field, I think 3 or 4 different times, in the sense of he wasn't listened to, he wasn't heard. They just said, "Hey, go throw ice on it, elevate it, rest, and you'll be good." Where he was saying, "I think something more is going on. Can you please take a look at it?" "No, no, no, we don't have the time. We don't need to. It's fine. You're good.
Mm.
X-ray is negative. You're fine. Move on." He couldn't move on
Yeah.
because he wasn't heard and something more was going on. And he had this position where in his career field that he was also um, a person that was helpful in getting resources to other places. So we had the chat of right now your injured area is an island. Your brain has rejected it as part of your body. It is not part of your mainland. It is an island out there surrounded by water. Now, this island is in need of the resources that you have. Can you get these resources to that island? "Oh, yeah, 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 okay. Yeah, okay. So how are you going to do that?" "Well, I have to fly them in." "All right, cool. Fly them in so that the people on the island, which would be our sensory receptors in the nervous system, but let them know that they're being heard. And when they're heard, that the resource is being delivered." just as a first step. Okay, cool. So I did that. And I was like, all right, yeah, I can envision that. Awesome. Now, is it possible for you to build a bridge so that you can start bringing trucks in instead of having to fly it to the island? Oh, yeah, yeah, I can start building bridges to get the resources there more repetitively than waiting for a flight. Okay, awesome. Build those bridges. Now that area is getting the resources. Now it's connected back to the mainland. Now these sensory receptors or the islanders are getting the things that they need, and they're saying, wow, I feel like I'm part of this because when I'm asking for something, you're delivering it. That means that I'm part of this. Awesome. What ended up happening, running improved, strength improved, mobility improved. Because his brain started recognizing that this is part of me, not something separate that I've rejected because my sensory map got smudged, because my brain looked at this thing as constantly being an invader and something that took something from me. So instead of moving it from the mainland, I'm going to go ahead and bring it back.
Mhm.
And it was just it was awesome to see that. And to me, it's the coolest thing to see that when you do that, that a lot of the physical capacity starts improving too, because now the nervous system goes from guarding and protecting to more performance and working cooperatively with those receptors in that part of the nervous system.
So when you say that like with the analogy of bringing things to the island, you don't just mean like strength training. You mean
Mhm.
the internal dialogue needs to be shift. Maybe gratitude practice needs to be happen. Like things like that that maybe you wouldn't expect in a physical therapy practice or facility or in a gym necessarily, but that like that goes further and should be accompanied with any person that's going through an injury.
Exactly. And we kind of talked from like the top down, like brain and sensory mapping down to those receptors or down to the quote unquote islanders.
Hmm.
But there's also a bottom up regulation that happens as well. And the example that I typically use with people with this is a business setting, right? And let's say that you're the CEO. That's the brain. The brain
Hmm.
is the CEO of the body. But let's say you're the CEO and you have an open door policy because you want your workers to come and tell you, hey, what's going well and what's not going so well. And you tell all your workers, you come out in a meeting and you say, hey, open door policy, whenever it's going good, whenever it's going bad, you come in my office, we'll sit down and we'll talk about it and we'll get it all figured out. And you're like, as a worker, you're like, oh, awesome. Like the CEO is with me. They're, wow, cool. They're like, this is a partnership. And then you go in the office for the open door to tell, hey, this isn't going so great. Stuff's happening over here. We need some help. And the CEO goes, get out of my office.
Mm.
Huh, that's not what you told me. This isn't how it's supposed to work. Oh, okay, maybe you're just having an off day. So they come back the next day. Hey, CEO, this is what's going on. We need a little help down here. What do you think? No, I got too much going on. I can't even think about that right now. We're just going to push through. Just keep going. Then the CEO goes, you know what? I can't deal with this anymore. Let me go ahead and just shut the door.
Mm.
Now that open door policy, the door's shut. Now the workers aren't able to come in and say, hey, this is what I need. And now the CEO is neglecting what those workers need. If that keeps happening, what's going to happen naturally with those workers?
Mhm.
They're going to form a union and go on strike. Like, you're not going to work with me. You're not giving me the resources that I need. And you're the top dog that's giving me the resources to do what we need to do. And you're not sending me those things. So I'm going to go on strike until you start to realize that what we're saying is what we need. And you just need to listen to us and then at least hear us out.
Mhm.
So they form the strike, and the CEO goes, oh man, I messed up. Well, I can either leave them out on strike, which I think is what happens in complex regional pain syndrome. The brain and the workers just kind of, hey, we'll go our separate ways, or we have to step in and go, no, no, no. Why don't we bring them back in? Why don't we listen to what their needs are? And then why don't we see if we have the resources to be able to give to them to establish a working relationship? Like, we got to bring those workers back in. We got to open the door. But now there's a little bit of distrust that's happened because now you open the door and the worker's still a little like, I remember what happened last time. So now you have to show it over and over again that I got you. And that's where the positive self-talk and the gratitude comes in,
Mhm.
is showing it over and over and over again. But then from that area of the sensory feedback up to the brain, a forgiveness needs to happen, right? From the worker to the CEO. Hey, I knew what you had on your desk. There's a lot of different things you had to budget, a lot of different things that were taking up your headspace. I forgive you for the way that that behaved. I just ask that that doesn't happen again, that we can have better dialogue before this great disconnect occurs.
Hmm.
So
It's pretty cool.
that's it.
Human body is fascinating.
It's so cool. And it's like stuff that you don't get in a textbook. You
Yeah.
get a lot of awesome things from a textbook. You get a lot of awesome things from getting the degree and the studying that's there. And you start to learn that there is a lot of gray. There's a lot of science, and you have to own the science. You have to own the foundation of science, but then it becomes an art
Hmm.
with that science. And that's to me the coolest part. You always hear, oh, it's a art and it's a science.
Hmm.
And it truly is because it's very abstract with how the nervous system operates and where our faith is and what our belief system is and how that can impact our total being. And, it's not as easy as, oh, your shoulder's bothering you. Well, here's a couple exercises that could help. Like, yeah, they could help, but there also could be a lot more
Yeah.
going on with that. There could be a lot less going on, but you don't know until you ask. You don't
Yeah.
know until you have those conversations.
Hmm. Can I share a hope story that's kind of connected?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it's more of like with someone who had complex regional pain syndrome and who didn't get to run for years, and then whenever I started running, I was in a lot of pain, so I would like, play basketball or run or whatever, and I'd work out twice a week, and it was on Tuesdays and Fridays, and it would literally take me until like if I worked out on Tuesday, it would take me till Friday to like start feeling better, and then I'd work out again, and then I'd be in pain until Tuesday, and then it was just like
Yeah.
on repeat, on repeat. Where my hope story is kind of silly because for our longtime listeners, they know that I don't know what the best, recovered from complex regional pain syndrome. I haven't been in chronic pain for a few years now, which is awesome, and praise God for that. And, but like the winter has been very wintry and it's been very cold, and we were running a lot in the fall, but in the winter we just like stopped running because it's cold.
Hmm.
But this past like recently we started running outside again, and it hasn't been as cold out.
If
And
-8's not cold.
yeah, well, we didn't, well, wind chill made it feel like -8, but the other day it was like it was 50
Yeah.
and the sun was out. So like 50 in the sun when the sun's out feels like 75 sometimes. And my hope story is like I got to run 2 miles the other day, and it was my second fastest 2 mile time. And since like we started training like in the fall, and I just felt like I was crushing it. Like I ran fast, I
Hmm.
felt good, the weather was beautiful, the sun was out, and it was just great. So my little hope story is one that like I'm not in complex regional pain syndrome anymore. Two, had a great run the other day, and that the spring is coming, and it's just a recipe for goodness.
Yeah, I don't think it's silly. I think it's very empowering because what we said earlier with, specific to complex regional pain syndrome is that it's typically you're a case study because there's not a lot known about it, or you're doomed and you have
Yeah.
this forever. And there's an analogy that a lot of times a chronic disease, you're in the pond and people are just kind of throwing you stuff to keep you afloat in the pond
Hmm.
where you got yourself out of the pond.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need these things to just keep my head above water. I can get out of this and I can return back to the things that I love. And I think it was one of our first episodes, maybe like in the first five of the redemption of running and
Hmm.
the first time that you competed and how much running was in it, but how empowering it was to go from you'll never run again to then doing a 4 or 5 event competition
Six
that
events.
6 events that
Yeah.
involved a lot of running in a very mountainy area.
Hmm.
And it's really cool because it's, hope not nope, it's about becoming hope. And you have done that and are doing that for people that have that. And Harley, you're going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be able to do that, and that's the coolest thing about this field is helping people achieve those things that they want to achieve, but they don't think that it's possible because of the nopes that
Hmm.
have been delivered to them.
Yeah.
So, Harley, thank you for the question. Thank you for listening. Have a great week, and remember, high performance isn't just about using the strategy of hope; it's about becoming hope.
Thank you for listening to the Hope Not Nope podcast. Please subscribe and share this episode. This podcast is for educational and personal development purposes only and is not considered health or medical advice. For personalized support, connect with a Hope Coach at hopenotnope.org.